Big Sky howdy, and welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio. You are listening to the mellifluous tones of the Duke, coming to you as usual from World Bigfoot Radio, centered high somewhere in the vastness of the Rocky Mountains in western Montana. And I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. By the time you're hearing this, New Year's might even be over. Hope you had a great holiday season, and don't get all depressed because winter is here. Because the sooner it's over with, the sooner we can get back out and do some squatching again. For those of you that are down in the deep south, hey, enjoy your winter. Get out there, do some squatching. But I'd like to thank everybody for the Christmas greetings. I'd like to thank the people that sent me Christmas cards. Thanks, Grizz, for the awesome Christmas card from you. Thanks, Wes, for the Christmas card from you. And I'd like to thank Wes for the Sasquatch Chronicles mug that he sent me. Now, anybody else out there that may have gotten one of these knows what I'm talking about here. But when heavy duty is like an understatement on this thing. It's ridiculous. I mean, I was like, you could like take a wooden handle and attach this thing to it and use it for a mace head. It's ridiculous. I don't know. You probably couldn't break it if you ran it over with a tank, let's just say. And it looks awesome too. So huge thumbs up on the quality of the merchandise there. And thanks to Wes for sending it on over to me. Awesome Christmas present. Really appreciate it, buddy. Hope you had a great Christmas. And anyway, enough blabbing for me. Let's get on to the show and bring on our returning guest. As you may have heard these episodes before, he was on an episode where when he was young, he actually had an encounter with the Type 4S, the Junosqua, and later on, he ended up having a bad run-in with some Bigfoot up in another state further north, and ended up actually being out fishing at night and had to shoot one of the suckers to get out of there alive again. It was an episode called Bigfoot Eats Lead. And he's going to give us a little update on what's been happening around that same area since then. We cannot tell you the exact area, name of the town, or give you names of people. This is all being excluded for a reason, so don't ask. And by the end of the show, it should be obvious why. But with that, let me bring on our returning guest. Welcome, very warm welcome back. Welcome back, Lynn.
Hey, Duke. Thank you. And I agree with you. I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I was just kind of home doing my own. We were intending this to get this show on a lot before, and me running in and out of the hospital kind of put us back a bit getting this done.
Hey, it's a recurring theme here. All my guests seem to keep going in and out of the hospital all the time. They're like one foot in the grave and the other one on a slippery banana peel.
Yeah, I ain't quite there yet, but I was running in and out with my innards acting up, though.
Well, you just had a little mishap here a couple days ago where you fell from a little step stool and whacked your head on the ground real good and had to go out to the hospital and spend a few days there and come back again. So, man, I'm glad you didn't get more seriously injured, and I'm sorry that you had to spend some time in the hospital, but I'm glad you're back out again and you can actually come on the show and record the story now.
Yeah, that crack on the head was a pretty good one. We ended up with a couple of hairline fractures and getting my scalp glued together there. Wasn't fun. Spent about 10 days in, but we got rid of the bad headaches and all, so we're ready to rock and roll.
All right, man. Okay, well, so the last episode that you were on, you were talking about an incident that happened a long time ago. How long ago was it? Like 25, 30 years ago? It's hard for me to remember now. It's been a few episodes.
But, yeah, it's been a while. And, this also happens down in the area where I used to go hunting a lot from the time I was like 14 years old on up until I got disabled. And I had went down there with a friend, if y'all remember from before. It took me back down, and we met up. Went to the little store in the town that we used to stop in all the time, and talked to them a little bit.
Just for the folks that maybe haven't heard the previous episode or heard it and don't remember all the details, you used to go down to this area all the time, and you were on really good terms with all the local farmers and stuff because you would eliminate the pests around there for them. shoot the coyotes and whatnot. So they gave you access to their property to do that, and then in return they'd let you go hunt there and stuff. So you were like on really close terms with all these local people in this area.
Yes. Like I said, I've been going to that area since I was 14 years old and hunting, and had been down there long enough to people. It's a small town, less than 400 people, and during that time, the coyotes were starting to come up down there pretty bad, and stopping at the little store, got to know the lady that was running it and the older gentleman that would sit in there and talk all day, like most normal small towns. And after I've been going there long enough, the people started to get to know me, and I ended up pretty much down there. I had to run all the farms down there because me and my friend that hunted with me all the time, they knew that gates would get closed and everything. So the people got to know us well enough that didn't even have to call anybody or anything. They knew my card, and if they saw my card, they knew we were there, and everything was cool. I didn't have to call ahead because the people had known me long enough and trusted me. Yeah. So I became well known and pretty friendly with everybody. Hunted down there till I got disabled and couldn't hunt anymore. But it had been quite a while since I got disabled, and a friend of mine took me down to the little store. We went to visit his parents, which lived in a small town that's about 8 miles or 9 miles away, something like that. And while we were there, we went to the little, and I'm like, hey, we're close, let's go over there and see if I know anybody. And went over there, and the lady running the store now was a daughter of the lady that had it that I knew. And she recognized me, but I didn't, remember her because the last time I'd seen her, she'd been like 10 or 12 years old, something like that.
Right.
And I found out that, most of the people I knew had passed on, and the farms had been passed down to sons and daughters and everything. And surprisingly found out that even though I didn't know most of them, they had heard about me and my friend and knew who we were, although I really didn't know them because they were kids when I was down there. Everybody pretty much knew me from...
They all remembered you from when they were little kids. But you didn't remember them because they all look different. They're adults now.
Yeah. It surprised me quite a bit. I found out that, they remembered me, and even some, they're old enough now that they have children, and ended up finding out because I was, invited down for a get-together a little bit later, that their kids had heard of me too because their parents had told them about when we come down there, and the run-ins that I had with the foots down there where we had to shoot our way out and all, which surprised me quite a bit. Okay, like I said, we went down there and I kind of met the new people, and the lady that's running the store now, like I said, was the daughter of the lady that I knew, and her mother had retired and passed the store to her, and it had passed away. But, they remembered me, and, we had a nice talk and everything, and she asked for my phone numbers and gave me a number for her that I could call. And all, so it's kind of, them connected, we kind of connected back together a little bit.
Right.
And that happened back in either late spring or early summer, something like that. And I don't remember exactly when it was. It's been long enough now that since all this stuff's happened, I don't remember whether it was late July or August when I got a call from the young lady at the store, and they were quite upset, and basically asked me if I could come down there and hunt hunt the Bigfoots down for them
Uh-oh.
and all. And what I basically told I don't have my guns and all now. I've had to sell them all off, and I have mobility issues. So me getting out trying to hunt isn't really a whole lot possible at the moment. And so
you tracked wheelchair, get out there. Come on, man.
yeah, we'd have to have a six-wheeler or a real good four-wheeler.
Armored six-wheeler with tread units, electrified surface. We'll start rigging it up.
Yeah. So she's back. Basically asked me, well, we've got people hunting. How do we kill these things?
Jesus,
and
that's
like,
bad.
Yeah, and I'm asking like, okay, what's going on? And so she said what had happened, like when we were down there before, basically after I had to shoot my way out, they said, they'd been coming into the community at night, they had scared some people, but nobody, they hadn't tried to hurt anybody. And after we had our little shootout, I guess things ramped up for a while before they settled back down about, trash cans getting knocked over, beating on the sides of houses when they're going by, stuff just being agitated. And after a while, that all calmed down out. But what brought this on was one of the houses there in the main town area where the creek comes through, and we figured that's where they're coming up. One of the houses had a small boy and a girl that was around, I think, in the area of like 12 or 13 years old. We're sitting on a couch watching TV, and the blind was open where you could see in the house, and one of the foot smashed through a window and tried to grab the girl.
Oh, geez.
And it missed, thank God, but that definitely upset everybody in the community.
Yeah, I can see how that might do it. That wasn't just peeking at the kids.
Yep. It was definitely something that scared everybody bad and put it to the point where, this is no, them being here is no longer acceptable.
Mm.
So, like I said, they asked me if I'd come down and hunt these things, and I told them I can't. They're like, oh, well, okay, we've got hunters. How do we kill this thing? And, I told them, body shots, their organs kind of aren't in the same place you would think ours are. So basically, you're looking for head and neck shots to bring them down, and it's going to have to be heavy, either, buckshot or slug, especially since they're in town where they're coming in. It's most, the houses are a bit close, and so you don't want, heavy caliber rifles going off. And,
yeah, nothing that's going to carry a half mile and go through a wall.
Yeah. So, I called you and talked to you about it, told you about it, and, at the time, I was worried. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, hell, this is going to be bad. Somebody's going to get killed and everything. So, I was really worried about it, and I knew it kind of worried you a bit, too, but for obvious reasons.
You worried a lot, yeah.
Yeah. My biggest fear was I'm sitting here thinking somebody's going to get killed, or a bunch of somebody's going to get killed. Surprisingly, even this old country boy that had been in the city for a while underestimated and forgot about, hey, country people can come up with some surprising, see, what do we want to say? Ways of getting things done, I guess.
Improvise and adapt, overcome.
Yep. And surprisingly, it came out that we had a bunch of vets down there. We ended up, they come up with three.
Now, before you get that far ahead, how did you find out about all this? Because we were sitting there in suspense for a long time wondering what was going on. When did you get feedback from them finally?
Well, I had been in the hospital for a little bit and had just come back home, and this is in, November yeah, it was, I think, mid-November, something like that. I'd come home from the hospital, and I got a call from the lady at the store. And they invited me down to, a get-together, which is kind of, I don't want to call it a town meeting at all, but
picnic or something.
yeah, kind of like, a community picnic type deal.
Right.
And at that time, it was still fairly warm, but I got home from the hospital, and she calls and invites me down, and I'm like, well, I don't have, a car to drive down there right now or anything. So she was like, hey, we'll send somebody to come and get you, just give me directions. And so I'm like, okay. And
awesome.
Turned out, sent a young man to pick me up who turned out to be the grandson of the guy that had the pig farm, which was, if I remember right, the first farmer that gave me permission to hunt on his land down there, which was beside his land, butted up against where I went hunting all the time.
Right.
So I think he was like the first one to allow me to hunt his property. And, from there, I pretty much gained the trust of the whole town, starting from there. And so we went down here for this cookout, and when I got there, like I said, I've got mobility issues, and I got nerve damage. And so it's like, when I got down there, and the lady that runs the store now kind of found out, I got trouble using, knives and forks to cut stuff up, et cetera. After, she saw that, she cut my pork chops and everything else up for me. And pretty much from that point on, I didn't have to get up and get a drink or anything else. The people are just fantastic. And I would sit down there and ate like a little pig. When it came kind of time to go home, somebody snuck off to the Walmart that was like 10 miles or something away and bought a bunch of plastic containers and come back, and I came home with so much good food. I didn't have to fix nothing to eat for over a week. I ate good that week. But
so
I was
the town meeting here, or your picnic or whatever. This is where they gave you the update on what had been happening, and everybody that like somehow already knew you, wanted to meet you, that you didn't actually know who they were at the time. That's where all this happened.
Yeah, I found out even, the great grandkids of the people that I knew who I were or who I was, because they had been told by their parents and grandparents about what happened to me and my friend when we were down there hunting and ran into these things, which really shocked me. But, yeah, we had a great time, and I ate good, and that's where we got an update from what was going on, and that's where I found out that, I had really underestimated the people down there, which surprised me. Being from the country, I should have figured that, hey, they're going to come up with something. And it turned out that we had quite a few vets, combat veterans that came from the town. And they come up with 3 7-man teams that had at least 2 combat vets on each team. And they had one gentleman that was a Vietnam War vet that was like in his very late 80s or early 90s. And he taught these guys how to set up booby traps, which they didn't really booby traps. It was more like he used his knowledge and taught them how to put up traps that when the foot come through them would let them know they're coming. So it's like from the time the lady called me and, I gave them the information, this is, what the only way you're going to guarantee them, to get rid of them, shoot them in the neck or the head.
Right.
They took and scoured the area and found where all the trails came in off the creek bed that they were coming up into the town on. And in the town, they have buildings that are made in the old style, where they got the flat roof with like a 2.5 or 3 foot ledge that runs around the outside with, drain holes in it for the water to run off from the rain.
Buffers.
And it just so happened that one was the store, the other one is, I guess you would call the town meeting hall, and the third one was the police station. And it just so happens that those three buildings were situated for all the trails coming into town come up. They could cover all the trails coming into the town from. One was on what would be the east side of the creek was the town hall. On the west side of the creek was the grocery store, and on what is considered Main Street and the road that goes over the creek from the town, they cover straight down that line. The two east and west buildings covered all the trails that came off the creek, and the police station covered the main drag and then down the bridge. So they had all the ways that they could come into the town easily covered from those three vantage points. And like I said, they come up with three teams of 7 men, and 6 of them were carrying shotguns with a mixture of double-aught bucks and slugs, and one man had a high-powered rifle on each team, and they came up with night vision and thermals for the guys. And this way they were able to see anything moving on the trails coming into town.
Right.
And all three of the riflemen had rifles with thermal hunting scopes on them. And so you had 2 people that were covering, looking through the brush with thermal and night vision, and then you had a rifleman with a thermal hunting scope. And surprisingly, when the first time they were set up and the foot's coming in, they got a really big surprise.
Which part of town did they come in on? Do you remember? Did they tell you?
When they came in, started in the first time after the guys set up, they were coming in to the trail that came off the creek that came out in front of the town meeting hall.
Wow.
And like I said, you had 6 men on shotguns, and they had it set up where, basically the first 2 hunters would fire shotguns, and they had ones after that, and when they unloaded, then you had a third round where they could continue fire going.
Mm-hmm.
And they had spotlights for each team on the roof of the buildings. So the guy with the thermals, see them coming up the trail, and when they got onto the top of the trail where they were by the road, the guys on top of the meeting hall hit them with a spotlight, and then the shotguns started unloading them. And the first 2 dropped immediately, and then they know they hit there was 4 of them in that group. The first 2 that were hit dropped immediately, didn't move, and they know they hit the ones behind them because they come up and grabbed and pulled the ones that had been first shot down back into the creek and run. And it was a couple hours later that 2 more came up the trail that came in front of the store. And the first one that was up the trail, when they hit the spotlights, they said that it was covered in blood, and they hit it and the one behind them, but they were able to get back down, the creek bed. So they weren't positive about kills on that, but there wasn't any more activity for the rest of that night past that point. So we're pretty sure at that point we've got 2 dead and 2 wounded, but they're not sure how bad.
Wow. The fact that they actually tried to come up again by a different route the same night, what the hell was their intention?
I think at that point they were thinking they were going to try and exact revenge.
That's what I'm thinking. But then again, what was the intention of the one that broke in the window to grab the kid in the first place?
Yeah. At that point, the town had been living with them for many, many years. Like I said, from before, and it's kind of like everybody knew they was there, but everybody pretty much, after dark, nobody really moved around unless they had to.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, other than them peeking in windows and scaring somebody or raiding the trash cans, they hadn't tried to hurt anybody or anything before that point. So, don't know why all at once one of them tried to grab her out of the house. Like I said, at that point, something's definitely wrong. But
yeah,
over the space of like the next 3 to 4 weeks, something like that, pretty much every night, some of them tried to come in to town by one route or another, and they were always met with stiff resistance from the guys on top of the buildings watching. And to that, to the point where finally the last time they were seen, there were just 2 of them that stood back in the woods against, along the street, the main street right around. There was houses on one side, and on the creek side, it was just, all trees and brush. And one of the riflemen that was on top of the police station, he could see that there was 2 of them that stood back in behind big trees along the main street side, looking at the houses across the road, and then they just faded away back into the brush. And as of the last time I talked to anybody down there, they hadn't been seen for quite a while since then.
Wow. So over the 3 weeks this was going on, how many times did they actually have to shoot at them or get it, shoot at them?
Was it at least 3 weeks?
Like every night?
And, they kept, the last time I talked to the lady at the store, they had finally quit worrying about it because they hadn't been seen for over a week. None had seemed to come in town. And they figured during that time, they know they've killed at least 8. And
God, it makes you wonder how many of them there were in that troop. Maybe that was part of the problem.
Yeah, it's, like I said, the last time that anyone was seen was just the 2 that stood in the brush on the side of Main Street, and they had trees between them so that they couldn't get a shot at them. And I don't know, I don't know if a lot of people know what thermal hunting scopes are, but they use just body heat to see and not optical. And when you're looking through a thermal scope, if you hit something and it hits an artery, you can actually see the blood being pumped out of a body.
Right.
Because it's body heat is what you're seeing.
So you can tell if you hit. Yeah.
Yep. That was how they know that, the rifleman on top of the police station knows for sure he got 2 because he was seeing arterial blood spurt as they ran away. And at that point, you know that they're going to die. Mm-hmm. But like I said, from the town, they know for sure that they killed 8. And so, that would have been a major loss to any troop. And that's the last time any had been seen. There was just the 2 that stood up in the trees and brush, and then basically faded away where they couldn't get shot at. And they haven't been seen around the town since. So basically, they took out a big part of that troop, and the ones that were left were like, okay, we know we're not welcome here anymore. So, the troop took a big hit. And like you said, how big was that troop? Because they've been going for many, many, many years where they didn't bother anybody. And it's like,
right.
the pig farmer that was down there along the river, they might hit him for a couple of larger hogs at one time during the, fall or all. And the guy that was the farmer across that had chickens, they'd hit for a few chickens. And they kind of hit
about
most
that
of them.
before. Yeah, that all the farmers knew it was them doing these things, but it was the depredations were so minor that it didn't really bother them very much. They didn't really care.
Yeah, it's just, they hit all the little farms for something, but they only took a little bit.
Yeah.
Not enough to really affect anybody, so it was a live and let live situation.
Right.
And so when this escalated, like you said, what was going on, that they decided to try and, one of them decided to try and bust your house to grab a child. Something that definitely changed, but for what we don't know, what brought that on. But at that point, now it's a danger to the community, so something had to be done.
Yeah, I can see why they would have that attitude for sure. So obviously, they're moving around in groups. You start shooting at them. There's more there that are going to grab the wounded ones and make off with them. So assuming they didn't come up with any corpses on this, was there any details from any of them that indicated that they might have actually taken out the alpha?
To give you an idea, the first time that they came up, the ones that were shot there in front of the town meeting hall, these boys was big enough, that the guys that was on top of the building, they talked to me. They said that they didn't even have to, they weren't on from the top of the building. They were just basically kneeling behind the wall and shooting over the top. They didn't have to hardly aim down to shoot at these things. They were shooting almost straight across. And so they measured from the ground to the top of that wall was 13.6 feet tall. And so they estimate the first two that come up to the top on that trail were over 12 feet tall. So they're figuring the first two that were hit were like 12.5 feet tall. And pretty much from what the other groups had all talked about, almost all the ones that were shot were somewhere in that range to maybe a little taller. So we're looking like 12 to maybe 13.5 feet tall for just about everyone they shot. So this
wasn't a group of like disgruntled gangbanger juvies that had ganged together and were causing trouble or something like that. These were full-grown adults.
Yep, we're looking at full-grown adults. That's bigger than a lot of places that we've seen talk about 10-foot talls, kind of smaller ones. And, it's like I said, the first one I ran into up here, we figured it was like 10.5.
Yeah.
And everyone that ran into after that was, in excess of, 12 to 13 feet. So these are all big boys and girls.
Well, we just got done doing the Glag saga in the last year that Kevin was with Glag, and when they parted company, last time he saw him, Glag was, somewhere between 9 and 10 feet tall, and he wasn't full grown yet either. So, yeah, they get even bigger than that, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Like I said, when we were talking before, here in Indiana, we run it, from me doing the cyber squatching, as a lot of people call it, checking through what I can find on the computer here. It's not uncommon in Indiana. Probably 65% of the run-ins here are of an aggressive nature. Hunters run into them when they're hunting, and they're having to shoot them to get away. And a lot of the times, from what I've seen in the accounts of hunters running into them, it has been juveniles that attacked as soon as they've seen them. But it's usually like deer season where the guys got shotguns and they shoot them because they're, racing toward them. As soon as they're shot, they run away. But the size range that most of these hunters are hitting, being attack is from about 6 feet to maybe 7.5, 8 foot tall at the most.
So little dumb juvies that don't know any better, and they go after you, and then they find out why everybody else doesn't go after humans.
Yeah, pretty much, the deer hunters are running into them either in the early morning or kind of a little bit later in the afternoon, but it's light, and they're hunting, and they've got a gun. They get attacked, and they shoot them, and they run away. So, yeah, pretty much most of the time when the hunters have run into them, it's been juvies.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that just makes sense. Well, a lot of the sightings that people have of the Bigfoot are, 6.5 to 8 feet tall. Sorry, folks, those are juvies. That, unless you're in an area where the Bigfoot just don't get that big, which there are some areas like that down the deeper south where you don't typically see gigantic ones. But, in a lot of the northern areas and stuff, 6 to 8 feet, they're kids. That's not a full-grown adult.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure from what what I was told when I was down there to get together, that pretty much they probably took the alpha and the senior betas for sure out of that troop. And that's probably why they were just too seen the last time and they faded away.
Mm-hmm.
That the point got made, you don't come in here no more.
No.
If the troop's big enough to survive after that, I don't think they're going to have a problem. At least not for a long, long time.
Yeah, you think the troop may have even just relocated after that and went, we know what to expect here. Let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, there's enough wooded area around there that they're either going to stay back where they're away from the town, or they might just move on out of the area. But, yeah, for my cyber squatching, around Indiana, like I said, probably 65% of the sightings are of an aggressive nature. And I've also seen that it depends on what part of the state you're in as to whether it's going to be kind of a benign encounter or a bit aggressive.
Yeah, I've heard that from researchers over there, too, because I know a couple, 2, 3 people over there in different parts of the state. And they go to the same areas all the time, and, some of them have really fairly cordial relations with them. In other areas, it's like they know of the same areas where they're going, well, I don't go to this one, because if you go over there, you, won't come back, or they'll crush you with a boulder or something, So I just don't even go squatching over there.
Yeah, it's kind of there. If you're southeastern Indiana, looking at most of the interactions in the southeastern part of Indiana are kind of benign, but if you're in southeastern, it tends to be more of an aggressive encounter.
Wait,
and
you just said southeastern, both of them.
Yeah. Up
now, which
north,
one is it? You said southeastern is what, benign or aggressive?
Yeah, southeastern tends to be pretty benign. They see you, you see them. They kind of mosey off in a different direction and don't bother anybody.
Okay.
If you're in southwestern, it's kind of a toss-up. Depends on, which one you run into. Could be aggressive or not. But in northern Indiana, most of the encounters tend to be of an aggressive nature. Kind of more up there. I haven't really found much attempts where they're super aggressive, where somebody gets hurt or anything. It's more like maybe they're just chasing them out of the area, but they don't.
Right.
But then there are a lot of times where people, they find a car sitting on the side of the road, it's got a flat tire, and the owner's nowhere around and can't be found. Or, in some areas, hunters go in and their car's there, the hunter disappears, and they never found.
Uh-huh.
So there are a lot of things like that where, like I said, either a hunter or somebody that's car's broken down and they disappear. So, you don't know what happened there. It could be a foot got them, or maybe somebody abducted somebody, but, you don't know what happened.
No. No, that's sort of, well, northern Indiana, you get up close to the Great Lakes there, so that's where all of the Bigfoot start getting spooky and creepy.
Yeah.
Up around the Great Lakes.
Yeah, from what I've seen, the closer you get to Lake Michigan and all in northern Indiana, the more hostile they seem to be.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like I said, other than some disappearances of people up in that area, really don't know what's going on there. But like I said, up in that area, deer hunters and stuff are running into them, having to shoot their way out, or hunters go in and just disappear.
God. Yeah, and it's not just that area. I mean, you hear about certain areas of the South and the East where that happens occasionally too, and it's just, creepy and spooky every time it does. And you always wonder if is it the local Bigfoot? Is it some other cryptid? What's doing it? What's happening to these people?
Yeah.
Really creepy stuff. So, wow. I mean, what a situation for the folks in the town there. So these guys were out there like on the rooftops every night until this whole thing was over with. That must have got It's like being in war.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I was surprised when I was, like I said, I was thinking somebody's going to get killed.
That's
what
me
I
too.
was thinking. And then, underestimated, and like I said, it's helping me being from a farm in the South, underestimated good old country boys, and then you throw in combat vets on the top, they tend to come up with a way to get out of a situation. So, you're talking.
Do you have any more information? What kind of sound traps is the Vietnam vet set up? Did they tell you anything about that? I'm curious.
Yeah, basically, he showed them how, the Viet Cong and them set up tripwires.
Right.
And like from what they told me, they were basically using like spider wire fish line, which is what they got is a real dark green and it's small, and you really don't see it. And it basically they just put that across the trails coming into town, and then they run it up where they set like tin cans or something on top. So if something tripped those, walked into that and knocked it over, they had an indication of which trail it was on and they were coming.
You could just hear the little tin can. This is like, I know somebody that used to do this to stop deer from raiding their garden. The deer would trip it and the cans would jingle, and then he'd go out and chase them off with his, whatever seemed appropriate. But, so no, it was interesting to me that they utilized this methodology successfully, because what's everybody trying to do nowadays? Oh, electronic everything, and then it seems to fail. But they're using the old-fashioned no electronics involved, and maybe Bigfoot can sense electronic stuff. So there's nothing to sense there.
Yeah, basically the only electronics type stuff that they were using was night vision and thermal.
Right, and that's right on their bodies. It's not getting anywhere near where the Bigfoot are.
Yep. And just basically, like I said, they were running spider wire fishing line across the trails so that when they walked through, they'd, knock the line loose, and then he would know they're coming and what trail they were on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's ingenious and interesting way to deal with that. I'm just so happy that nobody in that town got hurt. And, it's too bad that they didn't end up with a, big old sample that we could go slap on a slab and present to somebody, but, there you go.
Yeah.
And before anybody else starts asking lots of silly questions about it, think about it. They're like not trying to prove they're real. They're trying to make them go away. They're not interested in taking samples. They're not interested in taking pictures. They want the monsters to go the hell away. They're shooting them.
Yep. And that's all because one of them upped the aggression and tried to take somebody, take a child out of a house.
Yeah.
If that hadn't have happened, everything would have went on like normal for many years to come.
Yeah.
But when They crossed the line. You know, they basically signed the warrant themselves when one of them tried to take a child from a house. At that point, okay, now it's a bad thing. We have to take care of this.
Yeah, no kidding. Did an adult actually see that happen, or was it just the two kids and the thing broke the glass and they ran, I'd assume, screaming?
The mother saw him bash the window out and try to grab the little girl.
Oh my God!
It happened when the mother was walking into the room, or was already in the room. It was,
right.
Besides the children, the adults saw it happen.
So she got a clear look at it then. There's no question in her mind what it was. It wasn't, like some Hollywood director in a gorilla suit. It was a Bigfoot.
Yeah. She saw the arm come through the window to make the snatch at the kids.
Jesus.
And, the grab was close enough that at first, she thought the kid was gone. But he didn't get a hold of her. The kids just, fell. Luckily, it missed, but it was close enough that it really scared the lady bad. And it's like the next day, I think it was when, the lady at the store called me.
Yeah, well, the immediate response after that. And then I remember you got a hold of me and went, hey, there's something bad going on over there, and I don't know what to do. I can't go help those people. I don't have guns, and I'm not mobile, and what should I do? And, give them some good advice. That's all you can do, man. I don't know anybody that I could send to help with that.
Yeah. Another good thing that came out of it is, like I said, the young man that come and picked me up is the grandson of the pig farmer that I knew. They said they're going to come and get me if I want to come down, and they'll supply me with guns and all to come down and hunt coyotes and stuff for them, where I don't have to walk and move around. And they'll have somebody that stays with me, that kind of watch my back, or I'll have company to do so. And I've actually went down there once since then and stayed a day and a half down there and did some coyote hunting, out on the pig farm and the chicken farm. So, it got me back out of the house, and I'm sure that this summer I'll probably be able to do that more. So we come up with something good for me too. So, the bad situation.
We got to get you set up with a wheelchair with tracks on it, so you got your own little tank to roll around in. We got to get you set up with a. It's come to my attention that a lot of the people that are squatchers, and some of whom are really knowledgeable and good at it, are getting to be old and crippled and can't get out in the field anymore. And so we need more wheelchairs with treads on them, first of all, and walkers with big beach wheels on them that can roll really good. And we need to start a group for all these people. You should actually be in charge of it. I'll put you in charge of it, and we'll make it only for people that are disabled that want to still be squatching vicariously or otherwise. And we can call it Group Investigating Mystery Primates, or GIMP for short.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
And you can be the man from GIMP. It's like the man from U.N.C.L.E., only way cooler.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I've still got connections to come up with an old Sherman tank somewhere.
Well, there you go. You just put a little rocking chair on top of that, have the controls up there, and you're all set. You're good to go.
Yeah.
Plus, it's nice and safe in case you get unwanted visitors. You got the right kind of armor to keep you away from it.
Yep. That would definitely be, matter of fact, I think we come up with that before, didn't we? We got a picture of a tank to go hunting in.
Yeah, nice and safe. Yeah, the safest way to go mountain giant hunting, and a tiger too. Oh my God. Well, I'm just, man, I am so happy nobody got hurt and everything went okay as far as that end of it. I'm sad that whatever set up the Bigfoot did. I hope it wasn't like some random wandering Bigfoot that came through there and did something stupid, and then all the locals got blamed for it. You just don't know. But the locals in the past have exhibited aggressive, obnoxious behavior. You're the witness to that. So likely it was the same troop, and just one individual got too far out of line. But, you know, God help. I feel sad that they ended up getting their butts shot, but, you know, if you're going to be trying to steal children, and after you get the friendly warning of being shot a few more times to not come into town, you turn right around and do it again. You know, that's pretty aggressive and obviously hostile. So I can't help but think that they actually dealt with it the right way.
Yep. It put them in a situation where it's like, okay, they've crossed the line, they've tried to hurt somebody, now it's a problem.
Yeah, now it's on. We were living together for decades in relative harmony. But when you're trying to attack one of us, then we, you know, and this is typically probably one of the main reasons why they avoid us and why they don't want to be seen by us. Because when a conflict arises, we just deal with it by everybody in the area gets their guns, their pitchforks, their torches, go out into the woods, kill everything that moves, problem solved. And they know that. You know, if they get too hostile and aggressive with us and we figure out who's doing it, they're in deep, deep trouble, and they know it.
Like I said, my run-in down there where we had to shoot our way out was in the late 80s, if I remember right. I know like I said, my first encounter was with the Janoskla, I think it's called, that happened in Tennessee.
Yep.
And then, you know, years later, I run into them there in my hunting area while we're fishing and have to shoot our way out.
Yeah. But then,
like
you know, it's like 30 years later by the time one of them starts acting aggressive again.
Many years later, you know, a little over 30 years later, and, you know, now they've got one that went past the point of no return.
Yeah.
You know, like we ran into them down there and had to shoot our way out. They said, you know, that when they're talking about, I guess, for, you know, several months after that, between 6 months and a year after that, you know, they were coming into town and knocking trash cans around or slapping on houses. But after, you know, they didn't hurt anybody, but after a little while, it settled down and went back to what they'd been all along.
Right. Business as usual. We avoid the humans, they avoid us. We don't loot from them very much. Wow, man.
You know, it's one of those things. Unfortunately, it may have just been one bad one out of the troop that crossed the line, but it put a situation from one individual caused that where they made it where they had to be, you know, either run out of the area or killed.
Yeah.
And it seems it took quite a big amount of the troop before they got the message, unfortunately.
Well, and, you know, this isn't the only time this has happened. There's been outbreaks of hostilities between humans and Bigfoot critters for hundreds of years at the very least. We're going to have Bear on here shortly talking about the real story behind the Lafleur encounter. And that was a native tribe having a conflict with the local Bigfoot, and really serious stuff breaking out there, you know, so even more so than what you're talking about. You know, so this has happened before, and, you know, it's nice when they can actually, I think that's why they do it for the most part. Let's hide in the background and just kind of not even let them know we're here. If we announce our presence, there's going to be trouble, and, you know, it may have been like we postulated in a few of the shows here that when there were big outbreaks of disease waves brought over from Europe and a couple different stages there that may have wiped out a lot of them, and at that point they just, you know, quit dealing with humans, because apparently before that they were using the continent-wide trade language to trade with a lot of Indian tribes, but after the big wave of disease came through that wiped out most of the natives, they stopped doing that. So it may have affected them and wiped out most of them too, and that was intercordial relations.
Yep. Like I said, here from everything I've found over around Indiana, you run at least 65% of the encounters in one way or another are aggressive. All
right, brother. Well, thanks a lot for coming on and sharing the update there. Really appreciate it. That's, wow, man, that's some friggin' scary stuff. I kind of hope that doesn't happen in anybody else's town. But like I said, you know, never know what's going to happen to these critters exactly. And they're just like humans are, basically unpredictable. So you get the good along with the bad. You get the good ones like Lag, and you get the bad ones like the window breaker here. You know, just like humans, some are good, some are bad. But again, thanks for coming on the show and sharing this with us, Lynn. Really appreciate it. Glad that you survived your fall and that you're out of the hospital. And we'll definitely try and have you back here at some point in the future and have a little roundtable discussion about stuff around that area. Okay, brother. All right, well, until next time, everybody, take care, be safe, work toward making 2018 better than 2017 was. Let's all be kind to each other. Safety first, last, and always. And remember, no matter what, please do not hug the Wookie. See you later, everyone.